look at the current minority coaches and GMs. The list is very short, but the NFL is taking steps. Roger Goodell said Tuesday that owners have voted to approve two measures. One would expand this year's playoff field from 14 to 16 teams if future games are lost because of the coronavirus pandemic. The second measure would reward teams with draft pick compensation, 2 third-round picks, if they develop and promote minority coaches and executives. Ryan Clark back here with us. Ryan, I'll start with you. How do you feel about the NFL's minority plan?
I think this is the smartest plan, actually. I think this is a much better plan than rewarding people for hiring minority coaches or having something like the Rooney Rule where minority coaches get an opportunity to be interviewed, because they will continue to have or be able to make the statement that we interviewed and X coach was more qualified, or such and such coach was the most qualified coach for the position. And me talking to many minority coaches, especially last year throughout the coaching cycle, this was the one solution, maybe not necessarily the way the NFL put this in, but this was the one problem that they all spoke to me about, was about the pipeline. It was about the pipeline that allows Scott Turner and Norv Turner to have jobs, or for Norv Turner to get Scott Turner on, for the Kyle Shanahans of the world to get jobs at low levels, for the Sean McVays, for even somebody like John Gruden, whose son's now a strength coach in the league, for him to have the pipeline and the connections to do certain things. What was happening in an NFL was you weren't getting African Americans, or you weren't getting minority on the bottom levels that were given opportunities to grow, that were given opportunities to become quarterback coaches or OCs, or weren't given opportunities to become defensive coordinators. Because what happens many times with African American coaches or minority coaches is that they're usually former players that they use to manage a room. It's a wide receiver room that's full of African Americans, that's full of black players. And instead of a coach having to deal with those players from a personality standpoint, from a relationship standpoint, they put someone in that room that has played the position, that can relay what things are going on, but more than anything, be able to deal with those guys. And it's not necessarily seen as an intellectual hire. It's not necessarily seen as a developmental hire. And so I believe doing something like this now, I also believe that some people are going to be like, you know what, screw those picks. I don't really care. I don't have to develop or do anything to get people to that point. But at least this is an initiative that says, you know what, there is a value in that. That is something that is missing. And I think just the simple acknowledgement that the pipeline isn't the same, that the pipeline isn't fair, that African American and minority coaches aren't treated the same from the bottom up is very important from an awareness standpoint. So hopefully these measures put in will help some of these coaches grow.
This is a good idea, but I need to point out how pathetic it is that you need to reward teams with draft pick compensation to help themselves. Look at the list of so-called minority or non-white or Anglican candidates, coaches in the league. Mike Tomlin, one of the all-time great coaches, never had a losing season, even last year without his quarterback, right? Ron Rivera, better than average coach. Look what Flores is doing in Miami. Last year, is this the worst team of all time? And this year already, look where they are. It reminds me when the color line was broken in 1947 with Jackie Robinson in the major leagues. You know what happened? They say the color line was broken. It wasn't like the league was integrated. You had a few black players. You know who they were? All-stars from the Negro Leagues. All-stars. And still, there were plenty of all-stars from the Negro Leagues who weren't in the major leagues, but were better than so many major leaguers. When you have to incentivize teams to help themselves, what does that mean? It means there's no incentive to do it now competitively. The NFL has created a situation with a salary cap, with parity and all this stuff, right? Where there's very little incentive financially, in fact, for an owner to try to win the Super Bowl. Really, he's going to make money any which way. The equity is going to increase in the team. The TV deal is going to be great. That's really more dependent on the market than anything. No, why does he have to do his best to win? And what it shows up in is hires, right? Like, if you exclude, if 75% of the league is African American, then you would assume that from the coaching ranks, you're culling from, 75% should be African American, right? Wouldn't you say? Why would you want to exclude, even if it was only 50%, why would you want to exclude half the population. From a pool half as small, you are likely to find half as many good candidates for the job. And yet, teams can operate this way, whether it's conscious or unconscious bias along racial lines. Teams can operate this way because there's really no incentive for them not to. They're not competitive enough. Their own personal feelings and how a candidate makes them feel or reminds them of themselves is more important to them than winning. To the point that, like, forget about social justice for a second, all right? Let's just talk football. To the point that the league has to say, we'll give you 2 good draft picks if you would even just put an African-American coach in the pipeline. Yeah, it's a good idea, but it's sad commentary.
Stephen
Well,
A.
there's no disagreement here. The fact of the matter is that that's exactly what the case is, Max. It's sad commentary. It's sad. It's a sad situation because this is what it's called for. I don't know whether or not this is going to remedy the situation because, again, if you're a coach and you know you're getting the job under the guise of these ramifications being implemented in the event that you're not put in a position to succeed, then obviously that's going to create this notion, this belief that you're being assisted in order to get to this position. And they don't look at themselves. They don't look at the fact that, you know what, who you knew, your networking, how you cultivated resources and things of that nature may have facilitated things for you, how the people who look like you, share your same cultural background and what have you, assist greatly in you getting to where you want to get. Unfortunately, blacks haven't been in that privileged position for quite some time. And I think more importantly than anything else, you're seeing retreads, and that's really where things resonate with you. Nobody has a problem with the Sean Paytons, with the Andy Reids, with the Bill Belichicks of the world. Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.